Hey YouTube, let's go look at some pumpkins. Oh my. Oh, okay, we're doing it right. Now, a couple of days ago, I put up a YouTube short. Yes, that's what it is. About my giant pumpkin plant. And one of the things that I was showing is how much space that it uses. But what I didn't show are the tiny little pumpkins that are starting back up. And why is this so cool, you may ask? Is because this is the second break or the second wind of these pumpkins. I've already gotten a pretty good harvest from them. These are part of the harvest that I've gotten from them. And this, oh, and this one up here. Yeah, forgive the craziness of my garage. However, you may be wondering why I was showing you those pumpkins, and the reason is because we're going to learn a little bit about them today. Pumpkins are a very heavy producer once you have a very warm climate. And, well, even if you don't have a warm climate, as long as they have enough warmth and they have enough days, you can get multiple harvests from your pumpkin plant, especially as long as you keep on collecting the pumpkins. And if you let them, they will vine out for, well, ever, it feels like. Let me show you another reason why I say that. So this right here is a pumpkin plant vine, and it is slowly meandering up my tree. My tree is quite tall, as you can see, and I suspect that it will make its way pretty close to these top branches if I let it. And the reason why is because you see this growth already? Well, if we go backwards, we find out that past these sunflowers, there's a bed right there, and that's where it started. Now, this plant, I want to say, is already 40, 50 feet long, especially when you see that it is scaling over towards the trellis that we started at earlier. And you can also see that these are a little bit different pumpkins than what I showed you earlier. Depending on the pumpkin, depends on the vines. Now, the first ones that I showed you were sugar pie pumpkins. They're a lot smaller. They're about 6 pounds, 7 pounds at their biggest, and they are a lot sweeter. They are specifically grown for their sweetness, so you can put them in pies, pumpkin pie in July. They are also great for cakes and breads, anything that you want to do for some sort of sweetness. Sugar pie pumpkins are where it's at, versus these big ones where you will have them for jack-o'-lanterns or for squash, pumpkin soup, any kind of squash-like food. That is what you would use your pumpkins for. And one of a really good way to do it is also just baking it in the oven. But because this is so much bigger, the plant is also going to be a lot bigger with it, and it will vine out as long as you will let it. Because not only do the vines carry the proper nutrition, but it can make roots systems past its initial point, so it can give more nutrition and keep scaling and going forward. Let me show you. If we come down here, you can see these little nodules. They're nodes. I actually talked about them in a propagation or a cloning podcast. Now, if you can see right here, I know it's a little bit hard because there's grass in the way. Let me get down there. There we go. Come on, you. So as you can see, there's a node there. Let me try on a different one. This one's perfect. So if you can see right here, oop, there we go. This is a node. If this pumpkin wasn't there, this node, or this little notch where you see these branching off, this node right here would turn into a root system and clamp down into the earth and grow a separate system of roots. And why it does that is, again, to give this vining plant enough nutrients so it can just keep on growing and producing more pumpkins, and also climbing and going anywhere that it needs to in order to get enough places or enough room to, again, grow more pumpkins. And because of this, I have decided that I do not have enough space in this small gardening patch. I already have a bunch of other things that are growing here. I'm going to be using my tree in order to trellis these pumpkins, which might be really interesting because, again, they're big pumpkins. Oh, perfect. So the nice thing about pumpkins is they do give you a lot of pumpkins if you would like to. But the thing is you have to start them early if you want them to do this. So I personally start them about 6 weeks early indoors before your last frost date. The germination cycle takes about 5 to 10 days before they pop up. And I also like to sow at least 3 of them. So if anything were to happen, I have something left. I have a backup plan. So after I have them for about 6 weeks indoors, I'm going to take them outside. 3 cloudy days, so the UV will just not kill it, versus 7 days of gradually taking them outside, exposing them to more sunshine, more sunlight, more UV. So 1 hour the first day, 2 hours the second day, on and on until the 7th day. And then afterwards, they should be fine to be in the ground and start growing maturely. Now, the other thing to think about is after you have them in the ground, you're going to need to water them. These plants will never have enough water. I've put them in clay in the area that I'm at, and they have done marvelously, as you saw earlier. I have also had them in regular draining soil. I've also had them in potted plants, or as potted plants. So there are many different ways that you can have pumpkin plants be in. So don't worry about whether or not you want to start them as a potted plant or in the ground or raised bed. They will do well in any situation. The biggest thing really is just making sure that they're in well draining soil, but they have enough water. And if you want to try them in clay like I did, which is not well draining soil, just make sure that they have enough nutrients, and also make sure to put at least 4 inches of good compost or good soil on top of them, and they should be fine. Now, you will not need to water them as often because, of course, clay holds water like nobody's business. But I will say this, they grew fantastically, and I'm not disappointed by them in the slightest. Now, after they have grown, you will start seeing these little tiny pumpkins that I showed you before. Should I show you again? I'll show you again. You're going to start seeing these tiny little buds, and the female plant will have these tiny little pumpkin plants on the end of the fruit, while male flowers, which are going to be fertilizing them, will look like these. These will become the flowers that will help grow these little guys into your giant pumpkins. And they're so pretty when they get to this size. So these are the squash blossoms. These are your pollen makers. When they open up, they will have, well, actually, let me show you what they look like inside. Alright, Hank, you cannot eat this. So this is your blossom, and when it is open like this, you will see a protrusion coming out of it. Let me show you that. So I've already opened it, so we can just go ahead and look at it inside. But this is where all the pollen will collect itself, and usually pollinators will come over, collect the pollen, and then go over to the female flower and pollinate that flower. Now sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's okay, because what you can do is you can take a blossom like this, and you can either take a Q-tip or your finger, or even just this little pollen, you can take this pollen gland, do we want to call it that? This pollen finger. Editing me here. I just wanted to let everybody know that I actually looked up the name for that, and it is an anther. So that piece of the male flower is again called the anther. And go over and go to the other flower and fertilize it yourself. And it's very simple. There are little nodes that you will take this guy and brush up against and easily just pollinate like that. Now the biggest difference is that this does not have any more pollen on it. Let me see. There we go. As you can see, I'm brushing my fingers and there is no yellow on them. That will be the biggest indicator whether or not you have any pollen left. Though, looking at this versus an actual pollen, a pollen-filled finger or a pollen-filled node, you would be able to see the difference pretty well. Right. However, if you have pollinators, then you do not need to worry about self-pollinating your pumpkin plants. Now, if some get away from you, that is okay. Let me show you what they will look like. This is an unfertilized pumpkin. Now, usually they start out... Oh, no. Look at this. There we go. This is an unpollinated pumpkin. These guys will not get above their size. If they are not pollinated, they will not get any bigger. They will just turn yellow and then brown and fall off and die. It is the plant's way of making easy energy so they can put more into the ones that have been fertilized. And you will see the pumpkins grow enormous within a very short amount of time. And then, of course, it is just a waiting game after that for them to turn to their orange or blue color. And yes, if you did not know this, there are some pumpkins out there that are blue. And then the easiest way to tell when your pumpkin is done, of course, is that color change. But if you're having trouble, or if you feel like you are unable to wait until it's fully ripe, that is okay. You can actually cut them off early. So if they're still a little bit green, the biggest thing is that you need to see that color change, or you need to do what is called the fingernail test. Fingernail test is literally just taking a fingernail and going up to the pumpkin, pressing down, seeing if there's an indent left. And as you can see, there isn't one. It is not squishy. It is a very hard surface. So this one was okay to snip. And again, you can also see that there's a color change, but if you have a pumpkin that is like this and it is fully green, again, doing that fingernail test is really nice, very helpful. And then you don't have to worry about, accidentally taking one that will not ripen. Also, if you did pick your pumpkin plant a little bit too early, then it will automatically show you the next day by shriveling up. It will look very unappealing, and it will start to mold after about a week. So there is always that disappointment that you're going to have with, not being able to have a good pumpkin, but you won't have to worry about eating an unripe pumpkin because it will show you signs before you eat it. Hello guys, it's the next day. I just wanted to say that is all you need to know in order to grow your pumpkins. Remember to make sure to water them, make sure to grow them the way that you wish to, and harvest them when they are ripe. And if you can't, it's okay to get them when they're a little bit green. Alright, I hope this has prepared you to grow pumpkins. Have a good one, guys. Bye.